This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
This is Keenan, the Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 35. I hope everybody's doing well. I am doing well. I'm surviving this heat and working my butt off. I know I said a few weeks ago that I was going to be back in the studio, and I was last week, but meetings, business, things often take me outside of what I need to be doing. So this week, I'm happy to say I'm back at my facility. So if you hear any noise, there's people doing basketball training. But I am doing a quick segment just so I don't lose the flow that I have of weekly. I'm trying to make sure I get everything and keep it tuned. So this one won't be as long, but hopefully it's informative and you're able to get something out of it. As I said, I hope everybody's doing well. I am doing well, and school has started. First week of school for the kids training. It's funny. I've been doing this long enough to know that first week of school, when those kids come in for that training after going to being in school that first week, boy, I have to adjust it because they have no energy. They're cranky, they're all of that stuff. They don't want to be there, and I get it because you've been being able to get up and go to sleep when you pretty much wanted to. For the whole summer, and now all of a sudden you got to be at bed at this time and get up at this time, and you're going to school. And then the poor kids, that one of my kids is his first year in middle school, so it's a big adjustment. From middle school to high school is big athletically, but going from class to class is not as big of a difference. But when you go from elementary to middle school, you're not in Mrs. Parker's class all day. Then you got 3 or 4 different teachers, and you have to find your way around and listen to the bell and make sure you're not in the hallway. As one of my principals used to say, when the bell rings, everybody stop. So it's not as easy when you're in elementary as it is middle school. So I understand that. So I've learned to adjust and not take it out on the kids, adjust the training for this first week. And I usually tell them, look, I'm going to take it a little bit slower. I'm not going to be as demanding on you because I understand that. And next week, we're back on our grind. As far as, and when I say I'm going to take it easy, it's, I'm not going to move at a faster pace, and it's just for the benefit of them to make sure they're getting everything out of it and they don't get frustrated and they're not upset for the wrong reasons. And I'm not taking it as if they're being disrespectful, and I've learned that. So it's good to be able to know and understand your clients and the seasons and all of that stuff. And I know I saw a meme about I think parents get ready for school. They start doing mock school training sessions like a week or 2 before, where they start putting them to sleep early and waking them up early and stuff so they can get prepared. So I thought that was funny. Okay, so let me get into things on my mind. I was listening to a podcast, and I was listening to the podcast, and then I was also listening to NBA station on Sirius XM, and it made me formulate this question. So on the podcast, I believe it was Andre Miller. They were discussing his coaching style. And, they was asking him about fit and stuff and how, G League players, because he coaches the G League affiliate for the Denver Nuggets. They were just asking him about how you deal with the G Leaguers and stuff. And it was fascinating because it was the information he gave was a little bit different than what I thought it would be with G Leaguers. They don't always come in. I don't think they come in with the right frame of mind. But in any case, it was really fascinating to listen to him. And, they was asking him about fit and how he does stuff. And he was like, they're pretty much professionals. There is some tweaking and stuff. But everybody usually has to understand what their role is. So then I was listening to Antonio Daniels and Rick Kamala. I think it's Camera. I'm sorry, Rick. I've been listening to your show and I'm butchering your name, man. My apologies. But they were talking about, the subject got up about the Team USA for the World Cup on the basketball side, and they was discussing about Trae Young, and that Trae Young wasn't on the team. And it was like, well, was it because of this? Somebody even thought it was because Trae Young is with Adidas, and I think Adidas and Nike don't, obviously they're competitors. And I was like, oh, now come on, man, nobody's doing that. Let's stop with that. But in any case, some report came out that it might have been a fit issue. Trae Young wasn't fitting what they were looking for or needing. So then the question I came up with, and it was funny because Antonio McDaniels mentioned it, but I was thinking almost exactly what he was thinking at the same time. So I just wanted to bring it up. Would I rather have a group of guys that all fit together, or would I rather have, a group of all-star players? And, you figure so what is fit? Fit means that you basically have a team of role players. Everybody knows their role. They fit on the team. So you don't have a team with a whole bunch of dominant ball handlers, right? So you're not gonna have a team with Steph, Kyrie, Chris Paul, all on the floor at the same time. Maybe they're backing up each other, but they're not gonna be on the floor all the time. You're not going to have a whole bunch of bigs. You're going to try to make it out to where you have a big that can do certain things, because one thing we know is international play is different than in NBA play. And since the U.S. has taken on the approach of kind of running it is, kind of like the way other nations run it, it's more of a, now we're going to make sure we get the best players. It helps. So they're looking primarily for good fit when it comes to the World Cup. Now, obviously, the Team USA, which when they're doing the Olympics, doesn't really seem to be as much about fit. They're usually just taking the best, right? The top players. So the question is, would you rather have a team of 12 players that fit together, or a team of all-stars? Because if you kind of look at it, it's almost what they do in the World Cup. Like, most of the players that are on the team now are probably not going to make the Olympics. In the Olympics, they're going to take the top players, regardless of fit, because, they're going to be able to play together and understand roles. And some players really latch on to a role. I remember Kobe, when he was on, he was just like, okay, I'm just going to lock people down, play the passing lanes, get shots and stuff like that. Carmelo had some of his best years playing, especially that 1 year, he was killing. It was just, he kind of defined his own role, how he could help the team. So if you have a team of all-stars, they understand what they need to do to fit together. So why would you have to necessarily get a team and make sure that you're getting fit? So if Trae Young was not placed on the team because of fit, is it because he doesn't shoot, the way they need to? He's not going to distribute the ball. Maybe his career average on assists and stuff is not good. Maybe he doesn't defend on the pick and roll as well, because you're playing a lot of these teams, they got a lot of bigs and they run pick and rolls, and those bigs can shoot as well as post. So, could that have been an issue? Could it have been something with the fact that, Trae has had a few coaches, in his career, and there's been rumblings that he's quote unquote a coach killer? I don't really know what that is, but could that be something? I don't know. I tell you what, I think when we say fit, when we're trying to specify that we're gonna get a Mikal Bridges to be a wing player, well, we can actually get Kevin Durant to do the same. I'm not okay. Hold on. We could, in theory, have Kevin Durant play that same defensive role with length as Mikal Bridges, but on the offensive end, Kevin Durant should produce more points than what Mikal Bridges has thus far in his career. Mikal Bridges is trending up. And who knows, in maybe a year or two, he could be, or this year, he could be the type of player that's going to consistently give you 25 to 30. But what I'm saying is right now, if you're going to take one player out another, you're probably going to go with the All-Star because you can probably get that All-Star to buy in to playing a little bit more defense. Hey, man, we don't need you to score as much. All of y'all can score. You know, if you're hot, we're going to go to you. But we definitely need you to rebound. We definitely need you to play defense, right? And as long as you do those things, the scoring takes care of itself. Because I truly feel that basketball players at the height, they know how to work things out. So if you ask me, I would take a team of all-star players that are talented that will obviously be able to figure it out, because when you watch all-star games, although I'm going to use all-star games, and I'm going to use not the last few years and how they're playing now, but I'll say before, I hate to be the back in my day guy, but in the 80s and 90s, all-star games were played a little bit differently because they were really competitive, you know, and those guys were playing. To me, the best years were when Magic and Isaiah were running point. They were balling. It was up and down the court. You were getting layups, dunks, fast breaks, but they were playing. Like, defenses were playing defense throughout the game. Now, obviously, on breakaway dunks and stuff, you don't have nobody trying to chase you down, right? But you look at the All-Star now, and it's like, you know, you dribble past half court, and the defender just looks at you and say, oh, go ahead and do a 360 dunk windmill. You know, oh, go ahead and shoot from three-quarter courts. I'm not going to guard you, right? So that's kind of what I say is you had a group of all-stars back then, and then even now. I'm not saying that these guys now couldn't play with each other, but I'm saying when they were really going, you look at the 92 Dream Team. They hadn't practiced. They went in, everybody could play. It was just, we just finna blow their ass out. I know what I'm going to do. You know what you're going to do, and we're going to do it, right? So when you look at it, to me, I guess now chemistry, a team that fits well together is going to win a lot of games. But if you put that team up against a team of all-stars and they're playing just as competitively on the defensive ends, what starts to happen is when it's crunch time, you don't have that list of guys that you can go to for a bucket. On that all-star team, yeah, every last one of them can give you 25 or 30, right? So like when I give you an example, the Brooklyn Nets, they were really talented. This past year, they were really talented. Once KD left, you got Mikal Bridges, you got Cam Johnson, you had Spencer Dinwiddie, Torian Finney-Smith. Those guys were an excellent team. But when it came down to some crunch time, you had stagnant. You know, they were stagnant sometimes. You had guys not really sure what they were, quote unquote, supposed to do with the ball. Yeah, some guys are like, oh, I'm gonna shoot it, but it didn't kind of look like, well, we know he's the guy that's gonna shoot for us, right? So they're missing a quote unquote superstar, a guy that, you know, in crunch time the ball goes through him or her in WNBA, but I'm speaking in the NBA. The ball goes through him, and he's going to make determination whether he's going to get his shot off or he's going to get a better shot for someone else. When you have a team full of 12 guys that can all do that, it makes it hard for the team that has a fit to defend that team, because you're not just singling on one or two players. You got to guard all five. Man, I can't leave this guy. He can shoot threes. If I leave this guy, he get into the basket, he rebounding and putbacks. So now everybody has to play one-on-one unless you're playing zone. So I think if that was where it was, I think that was my fit. I would like to know what y'all think, because I think it's kind of cool to look at it through that prism and try to ask yourself which would be the better way, the fit or the all-stars. So let me know what y'all think. Okay, so next thing I'm going to touch on is it's a very sensitive subject. There was a conversation about people who have egos. Are egos warranted? I think egos are warranted. Like, I have an ego. I mean, I have to have an ego to run a business and want to, be the best, quote unquote. I figure all other people who have started training and do training, I'm sure they have an ego that makes them feel like they're the best trainer. So I get that. You want to be, you want to say you're the best. If you're a player, you got to have an ego to play. You shouldn't go in feeling like you're second best. Even if you know it, you don't want to tell that person that you're playing against that he's better than you. You want to go in with the ego that you can go at him and hold your own. When you're a coach, you want to feel like as a coach, you're the best coach out there. If you don't exude that confidence, then are your players going to be confident? If you're telling them as a coach, man, I don't think we can beat this team. Y'all go out and try to do y'all best y'all can. I don't know what's going to happen, and we'll take it from there. Like, who wants to play for a coach like that? Right? So I get it. You have to have egos. But when should you have an ego? Right? Like, can you have an ego? All right. So I'll give an example. I'll use it from a training standpoint. If I've trained for 1 year and I've had a couple of kids, I've trained a couple of kids, but I don't really have anything results based, it'd be hard for me to have the ego that I'm the best trainer in the world, right? Because it's like, well, what are you basing it on? Just the fact that you feel like you're the best trainer? How much better are your kids getting if you're training? Okay? If you're a player, you have an ego that you're the best player in the world, then night in and night out, not every now and then, but night in and night out, you should be producing. You should be like an all-star top player and stuff. Everybody should know, when we play this team, we got to deal with this guy first. Nothing else matters until we deal with this guy. Okay? If you're a coach, shouldn't you have to have a line of success to be able to have an ego? Like, you can't have an ego if you've never won anything, in my opinion. I don't even want to say in my opinion. I would say facts. Like, you can't go around exuding the fact that you're a really, really, really good coach and you're not producing it, you're not winning. So my standard, and this is just me, or my criteria, this is what I would say. To me, if you've had deep runs, okay, hold on. Let me put it like this. I would say there's maybe levels of ego, because everybody's going to have a bit of an ego. Not everybody, but most coaches are going to have a bit of an ego. So some egos are warranted because you have to have swag if you're going to coach, right? But then there are upper mid-level egos, and then there are upper echelon egos. So mid-level egos, I would say, is a type of ego that you have if you're, I'll do it on a high school level. If you're in high school and you're getting into the playoffs, you win a game or two in playoffs, right? You're by district and maybe, your area or whatever. First two games in going into playoffs. I could say maybe you could have a mid-level ego, right? If you're winning districts but you lose your first playoff game, you can have like a lower level ego because at least you made the playoffs, right? So your ego should be bigger than an ego from a coach who didn't make the playoffs and who doesn't make the playoffs. Now that upper echelon ego has to come from either winning championships, state championship, finals appearance, a Final Four, or maybe an Elite Eight. Now, if you haven't gotten to the Elite Eight, but let's say you've gotten to maybe the Sweet 16 a couple of times as a coach, I think it's safe to say you're probably knocking on the door or in that upper echelon of, of coaches, of ego, not coaches, but of egos. Because there are some coaches that can coach their ass off, but they just don't have the talent as some other kids. And coaching is going to take you so far. You're going to be able to do a lot of things and compete, right? You're probably not going to get blown out because you know how to coach. But when it comes to playing against a better talented team, that team might struggle for a while, but in the end, you're probably going to lose it because you don't have the players to compete with that team. And then that team with players has to have a coach that knows what they're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then are the players old enough to take over and understand what they need to do? Okay, that's a whole different subject. Let me stay on task right here. So yeah, if you can be a good coach, and have the type of coaching brain or mind that allows you to be in it, but you shouldn't have an upper echelon ego if you're still in the lower level winning. You can't be going around here acting like you have 4 or 5 rings, meaning championships, if you've never sniffed anything further than a second round exit. So you can have sort of an ego, and I get it. It's a big responsibility. It's a big honor to be, a high school coach, the head varsity coach for high school on boys or girls on whatever sport, as well as in college. So I know that there's a level of arrogance that comes with it. But why am I bringing all of this up? Hey man, I've been around some coaches, and I've, not when I say been around them, I don't mean like I've sat and talked to them, but I've kind of been in the vicinity where, when you meet certain coaches, and I'm very good at vibes, and I've gotten these really, really bad vibes with how they are. They act arrogant, like they're just, God's gift to coaching. And then you top that with being around training kids whose parents tend to say kind of the same things. Not like I'm coaching them, but just through conversation after training, a few times and stuff, you get the same descriptions of those coaches. And I'm often wondering, like, where is the ego coming from? Because it's not like y'all are out there, some of y'all are out there, in the top 20 in the state every year. You're not like, honorable mention for coach of the year in the state or something. You're just really killing. Now, I'm not saying they can't coach, although I've seen some high school coaches that, like, how did you get the job? How did you get the job? And I'm not talking about coaches who don't have any talent. I'm saying if you have some decent talent, how is it that you can't win games? Now, if you don't have talent, then you need to be developing your talent, right? And I talked about this a while back. If you can't develop your talent, then yeah, how do you hold that job? But I've encountered coaches who were really, really arrogant, and how they spoke to you, like you were beneath them. And I'm kind of asking myself, like, damn, I didn't know you was in the Hall of Fame. You're in the Hall of Fame coach, right? That's what I'm speaking to, a Hall of Fame coach? No? Oh, okay. So you got what? 2, 3 state championships that you won? No? Oh, damn. Oh, Final Fours, right? You got a couple Final Four? No? Oh, okay. Elite Eights? Sweet 16s? You made the playoffs? You won your district? What's your overall record? What kind of top level talent have you produced? So it's very interesting to talk and be around. And look, I make no bones about it. There are some coaches that I'm not fond of. But it's not because, It's because of these reasons: their ego, their arrogance, the sort of slights against what we do. Even though we, as an organization, we produce some of the best players at these not the best players. We have some of their top players, some of these coaches, right? And we know that they don't rock with us, and that's fine. But it's still our job to make sure that kid is able to understand, grasp, and perform at the best of his or her ability. And we're good at doing it. So I have to help coaches that I really don't even respect. I ain't even say like, I just don't respect, because I have a kid in that program who needs our help. But knowing how some of these coaches think, some of the things they tell their kids, you know what? I had a coach, I don't even know if I told this story. This was, 4 or 5 years ago. And all I'll say is, I'm not going to say where this coach is coaching. I'm just going to say that this coach is still active. Whether this coach is on the men's or women's side, varsity, freshman, JV. I'm not going to say that. If you want to know, hit me up and I'll tell you. But I had a coach. I had 3 separate players on this team. And at the time, during the time I was training, the coach was a JV coach. And these players, we worked on a scenario. I showed them, this is what you're going to look at. This is what's going to happen running your play, getting the ball. This is what you'll probably end up. If you end up with this is the shot that you can take. And it was a reverse layup. So we worked on reverse layup, right side and left side. Nothing fancy, but it was a shot that was needed in this situation. Well, kid comes back after a week, what you work on, how everything goes. Oh, coach, I worked on that. Oh, coach, I got it. The reverse layup. But really, how did it work? Oh, no, exactly how you were saying. Got the shot, got the move. I got the look that I was looking at. I got the move. Not the move. I drove in, and I got a reverse layup. I said, you make it? He's like, yeah. I said, good. That's great. That's progress. He says, but then the coach told me that reverse layups were a stupid shot. And I said, what do you mean? Like, no, the coach said it was stupid. So I was like, no. Like, well, was it a wild reverse? So I'm really trying to kind of get into the mind of the kid to find out what the kid did to make the coach react like that. I'm actually kind of siding with the coach before I even know the whole information. Kid says, no, it was, it has happened almost identically to what I told him would happen in practice to get it to be able to be comfortable with it. So I was like, maybe you're not reading that right. Maybe the coach was trying to say, yeah, but they're stupid if you're trying to do this, that. That's kind of what I was thinking of. But in any case, I just kind of was intrigued by it because I wasn't understanding it. Well, lo and behold, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, the other players that I had came back and said the same thing. They worked on it, they got the shot, and it was a reverse layup, and the coach told them, don't shoot reverse layups. They're stupid. So now I'm like, what? I was like, nah, y'all have to be, but I'm saying y'all have to be y'all have to be understanding it wrong. But then I came to realization that 3 different players at 3 different times that I didn't discuss this with told me almost identical. They told me the identical information. I realized that it wasn't them, it was the coach. The coach actually said this. And then I confirmed it with somebody, and somebody was like, yeah, that's kind of what the coach says. I said, that coach shouldn't be coaching. Because what world would you be in where a reverse layup is stupid? If you do it if you do it just for no reason, and you're trying to hot dog, I can see a coach saying, stop hot dogging, stop trying to be all cute and stuff. But when you're doing it for a reason, it's a part of the game. It's what is taught. The Mikan drill was taken and transformed for guards. So guards could use it. So I'm like, I didn't understand it. The coach still coaches. I'm not going to tell you, what level, boys or girls, I'm just gonna say that coach is still around. So whenever I get a kid that's at that school with that coach, I always have to tell the parent, look, I'm gonna caution you that you have an idiot. You have an idiot. But I say it's like I don't say it like, oh, I can't stand him. I just say I don't usually say idiot. I'm saying it right here on the podcast. But I usually say, look, you got a coach that doesn't think highly of reverse layups. So that's kind of what you're dealing with. And this coach has done some numerous things, some other head scratching comments to some of the best players over the years. And I just kind of like shake my head like, how did you get the job? Like, who's hiring this person? Like, y'all should be reviewing y'all coaches on a yearly basis, maybe to make sure that y'all have the right person in place. And I don't mean like you got to have coaches who play everybody. I'm still of the mindset, and I know I'm in disagreement with some people because I've had the discussion with them. I'm of the mindset of I don't believe in bringing a player up to sit on the bench and make the player sitting for the whole year, and that player doesn't really play. It helps the player's development. I think in some way maybe, but not to me. I feel like you gotta play. If you can learn from watching, but then you have to be able to experience it yourself to understand, right? So I'm a big proponent of playing, and you not saying just letting everybody play, but you earning your playing time. So if you're on JV or you're on freshman, don't move the kid up to varsity if the kid's not gonna play, meaningful minutes. Not blowout minutes, end of the game minutes, but some meaningful minutes. They don't have to play. Look, I just think that you learn more when you're able to make those mistakes on your own. Some coaches feel differently because I've talked with dozens of coaches, and quite a few of them have that same philosophy. I don't agree with it, but I'm not coaching the team, and I've never really just sat down, and maybe that's something I should do, is just sit down and say, well, this is what I think. Can you explain to me why? What is it about them sitting for a whole entire season and not playing that's beneficial to them, right? I get some of the X's and O's, the feel, understanding how things are done, but I feel like, look, at one point, all of these kids were freshmen and sophomores, and they played freshmen in JV, so you didn't bring them all up, but it's just one of those things where it's like, we can agree to disagree, and there's no issue with that. I'm not like, oh man, that coach don't know what they're talking about. They don't think, no, it's not like that. It's a respectful, healthy party discussion. So the egos are something I think they need to be looked at differently, because to me, you can't have egos if you don't have no resume to support that ego, because that they can quickly change, and then you're a coach that's not coaching anymore. So how does the ego work if you're a head coach and then next thing you know you're a freshman or a JV coach somewhere else? That does that mean you can't coach? No, maybe the situation wasn't best. So yeah, it just rubs me the wrong way when people have egos for no reasons, and I know I do with some things, and I constantly try to address it with myself and not being that way. But I know it's kind of life, but some of these is just like a little extreme. At least I can point to different things that I've done with this business as a trainer to maybe try to support my little ego. But in any case, it's not good for anybody to have it when it's rude and disrespectful and detrimental to everybody else. Okay. All right. So let me get over to my basketball ideology. I was thinking about something when it came to training, and what I was looking at was, and it pointed to one of the podcasts with Andre Miller, and they was talking about, can you overcoach? And then I took it and I started thinking about it, because I was listening to what he was saying, and I was thinking about overcoaching or overtraining, and I thought to myself, yeah, you absolutely can overcoach, and you definitely can overtrain. Now, I don't, based on what pointers I put, like if you're trying to do 7 or 8 different complicated moves all the time, whatever time, I think that might be a bit much. I think, me personally, you start one point and then you can add layers on, but you don't want to give kids too much, because when you give them too much, now they're over analyzing, and they're trying to wait for specific things. So I always try to give a kid 2 to 3 options, and the reason I try to do that is because I don't want the kid to get stuck. So let's use the 5-out concept. So if I got the ball on the 5-out and I'm on the wing, the top player cuts through, they go through, I decide to jab right and penetrate left. Okay, option A is going to be a shot, whether it's a jump shot, whether it's a layup, or maybe it's a jump stop floater, right? Option B would be to maybe pass if the strong side defender on my side bottom corner comes in. I want to draw that defender in as close to me as far as possible, and then kick it out to for the shooter, right? So that could be option 2. Option 3 could be weak side defender comes in, draw them in, and kick it out to the corner. Now, it could be any different ways. It could be the wing on the opposite side. It could be the top on the opposite side. Option A could be the jump shot. Option B could be the layup. Option C could be a 2.0. It could be a Euro layup. I'm not trying to give them all of that, but I usually want to try to give them 2 different. I usually say, okay, you get this move, you're going to have a jump shot, a floater, or a layup. Those are your scoring options. Now these are your passing options. And I want them to know and understand that, so when they make their move, everything is going to be fluid. There is no, oh my God, what do? I didn't take the jump shot, or I couldn't get for a layup. Now what do? I'm stuck. No, now you have an option to do something else. And that's what I try to do when I'm going giving kids options. And I would probably say it's been highly successful with doing this, because I'm having less and less kids that are being stuck more. There could be a wrinkle that they weren't thinking about that I didn't cover, and then I try to cover it. But the reason I don't cover too much, obviously, is because if I cover too much, I have them overthinking. I don't want them overthinking. I want them playing and just being aggressive. So, like, overcoaching could be, where you're running a play and you're telling them you got to swing it. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. As opposed to letting them play, you're giving them the base play, and obviously what the play is, or you're supposed to swing. But when you don't allow that kid, as they're catching it, to pre-read the defense and be ready to make, a decision as to drive, shoot, or pass, they're just catching it and swinging it. They're not even looking at the opportunity to try to score or be aggressive in drawing the defense for a driving kick. I think that's overcoaching, because you're taking the ability of the kid to actually play. And I think players, and I'm going to probably have to cover this, I think players today are so much more skilled than back in the day with their ball handling, the different things and variations that are done. Like, I work on some high-level concept with some of my 10, 11, and 12-year-olds, because they're more advanced. I can give them these things. And I'm like, I wasn't working on this kind of stuff, at that age. But you can throw a lot of stuff at kids now, because there's so much information and so many ways that they can work out and try to get better. Now, I wonder about the ball IQ part, and that's a discussion that I'm going to have later on. But the skill level, I think, is so much higher with players. Players are understanding how, to make these moves and different, stuff that they can in their bag, as they say. But they're not given the opportunity, or they're not given the latitude to say, hey, this is a concept, this is the play, we want to run the play, but if you see something, you need to be aggressive in it and understand what you can have. And that's why I give them options, because if they're aggressive, I think when you're playing aggressive on the offensive end, I think good things happen, you know. And if something bad happens where you have a turnover, that aggressiveness still allows you to say, okay, yeah, that didn't work, but this is what I probably should have done, and you can correct it. Okay, so I think there is a such thing as overcoaching. I definitely think there's such thing as overtraining, and I really think you need to find balance. And I try to find that. I try not to do ball handling for a whole hour, 6-7 different moves. I try to, unless it's something in particular they want to work on, I'll try to do that in different ways. But one thing I try not to do is, I'm not trying to spend 4 weeks every week. What do you want to work on? I want to work on shooting, right? Like, I might do it once or twice, but like, okay, what is it specifically that you're looking at? What is it that I'm just missing? Well, how many shots a day are you getting? Are you focusing on the little things, right? So you try not to overdo and give them like just a steady barrage of the same thing, because you can overdo it. Now obviously in the development stages, you want them to be consistent in working on stuff, but you don't want them to be to where they're just like, 2 years of high level move and stuff, and you never move on for that. It gets old and stops being productive. So I do think there's such a thing as overcoaching and overtraining. And even before I came up with this topic and listening to it, it's always something I've been mindful of. You don't want I don't want you overthinking it. I want you playing. I want you making mistakes, because I feel like you're gonna learn more from those mistakes. Once you make them, then we can discuss why you made it and how to prevent it, and then you go from there and you get better. Now, are there a segment of players that are just doomed to continually make the same mistake because they don't understand or comprehend how to deal in that situation? Yeah, and then you just have to find different ways to reach that player and break certain things down and maybe make things simpler. I'm actually doing that now. I have a kid who's they're not getting it when it comes to some things, so I'm having to scrap some of the things that I've done and just be really, really basic with the kid to help the kid. And then once that kid grasps it, then I can start adding more stuff on. So it's a process for the players, it's a process for the coaches, it's a process for the trainers. And I think as long as everybody's looking at, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, I think you can ultimately have success on any level. But that's going to be all today. I thought it was going to be shorter, but I was running my mouth, so I guess it ended up going longer than what I wanted it to. But I appreciate y'all time. I hope everybody again is enjoying themselves, staying cool, taking care of each other, which is something that we all have to work on constantly. But I'm gonna end it like I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.